If I can't keep my head held high enough, I'll just speak love and watch the smiles come, bring my spirits up. There's some shit I like to fix, but I still know that I'm blessed.
Exploring Carson City, full of history. Carson City, the capital of Nevada, evokes memories of the Old West, when cowboys, Native Americans, and miners lived in the area. The city is named after mountain man Kit Carson. We enjoy history. I will add historic photos and other facts. Here is a photograph of Kit Carson. Christopher Houston Carson was born on December 24, 1809, in Madison County, Kentucky, to Lindsay Carson and Rebecca Robinson Carson. He was actually Daniel Boone's cousin through his mother, another frontiersman. Kit Carson was an Indian agent and a U.S. military officer. The Indian agent was a new role assigned to him in 1853 for the territory in New Mexico. He was mostly working with Utes, Jicarilla, and Apache. I'm sure I'm mispronouncing these. I do apologize. They are spelt in the information you can see on the screen. Kit Carson believed that natives attacked in desperation to prevent extinction of the native race. He advocated for reservations. Well, I guess hindsight is 20/20. Here is a painting from 1854 with Kit Carson on his horse. In 1865, he was promoted to brigadier general and moved to Colorado after the war. He was at Fort Garland, and he negotiated a peace treaty, and I put that in quotations, with the Utes. I personally can only imagine what was included in that treaty. In 1867, he retired due to declining health. He spent his final months as superintendent of Indian Affairs. After a grueling trip to New York in 1868, he came home to Colorado in terrible condition. After his third wife died in Colorado in April, he also passed approximately 1 month later on May 23, 1868. This often happens when spouses, one dies and then the other follows. He was only 58 years old. His official cause of death is listed as abdominal aortic aneurysm. He was a rancher at the time of his death. It appears as if Kit Carson had a sense of humor as well. His reported last words were, "Wish I had time for just one more bowl of chili." Now back to his wife, who passed shortly before him at only 40 years old. In the early 1840s, he was living in Taos, New Mexico, where he met and married his third wife, Maria Josefa Jaramillo. I'm probably pronouncing it wrong. Sorry, guys. It is spelt above. She was the daughter of a prominent local family. They were married in 1843. His third wife was a beautiful woman and was actually described by a visitor as her style of beauty was of the naughty, heartbreaking kind, such as would lead a man with just a glance of an eye to risk his life for a smile. This particular coverage claims they would go on to have 8 children together. Josefa's sister, also Maria Ignacio Jaramillo, that might have been better pronunciation, I'm not sure. I apologize for the pronunciation. She was married to noted fur trader and future governor of New Mexico, Charles Bent. So fascinating. I love history. I could just go down these rabbit holes and go on and on. The research did take a while and did get confusing, as I realized both sisters were not only named Maria, with different middle names, of course, but their mother was also Maria. She was Maria Paulinia Vigil. Continuing on with Josefa's sister, Maria Ignacio, and her husband, who went on to be the future governor of New Mexico. He was also a soldier and a sutler, S-U-T-L-E-R. I looked that up, and that's a salesperson who goes along with the armies and soldiers to sell them goods. Unfortunately, it did not end well for Charles Bent. He was scalped and killed by Pueblo warriors on January 19th, 1847. He was only 47 years old. This was at the Taos Revolt. During my research, my curiosity was piqued. You know I'm a very curious person, which is why this is so fun for me. I wanted to know more about Kit's first two wives, the wives before Maria. His first wife was an Arapaho woman named Wa'a Nibi. Once again, I'm sure I slaughtered it. Sorry. So hard to pronounce these words. She died 3 years from when they got married. Next was a Cheyenne woman who divorced him after 14 months of marriage. In my research, I also discovered that Maria was said to be only 14 years old when she married Kit. He was 33 at the time. I did see another account that claimed she was 15 years old, but regardless, she was very young. It also appears as if she went by her middle name, Josefa, which makes sense to me because it was very confusing with all the Marias. This account says they had 7 kids. Geez, is it 7 or at least 10? I wonder why the discrepancies. As you saw in the examples, another source said they had at least 6 sons and 4 daughters. I also find the at least a strange way of phrasing. Both Kit and his third wife are buried at Kit Carson Cemetery in Taos, New Mexico. It is now called Kit Carson Memorial State Park. Both the original tombstones remain. They were installed in 1890 for Kit and later 1908 for Josefa. I wonder why it took so long. She died April 1868, and he died in May of 1868. It took 22 years to get his stone in place and 37 years for hers. In 1908, a fence was erected made out of iron to put around the graves to protect them from sickos who were souvenir hunters, and they chipped away at the stone, causing severe damage, as seen here. Jerks like this still actually exist today, believe it or not. Rest in peace. No respect. Mr. and Mrs. Kit Carson. The Kit Carson Trail is 2.5 miles, a walking path, through the historic district of Carson City, Nevada. There are landmarks, 1800-style homes, museums, and churches, approximately 50 landmarks, telling the capital city's story. We had a wonderful time walking and driving part of this path. The map is provided showing you all the locations you can visit. Only a small portion of it is featured here, meaning we did not cover much of the map, but we did get to see some beautiful buildings, churches, museums, lots of history, which I love so much. The Carson City Mint was established March 3rd, 1863. The coinage needs were brought on by the Comstock Lode, which was the largest silver strike in U.S. history. Prior to that, gold and silver was sent all the way to San Francisco to be minted, which was very expensive. It only made sense to have a mint right there near the mines. The building is stunning, in my opinion, made of stone. And it's still in use today, housing part of the Nevada State Museum, which is also amazing. Be sure to watch our visit there. We did several episodes covering that. Also, the original minting machine from 1870 is still there and used to mint $75 souvenir collector coins. Things were built to last back then. Not so much nowadays. There are so many historic buildings along this trail. The Brower Mansion, which was built during 1903 to 1904 by State Senator Wilson Brower, is 3,307 square feet, and it's the only example of Queen Anne-style architecture left in the historic Carson City, and one of the best examples in the entire region. It's also on the State and National Historic Registry. And in 2000, Harmer, who was only the fourth owner of the home, which is incredible for the age of the home, bought it, and it was in really bad shape, so he meticulously restored it. There's a description of all of the architecture highlights, which you can also see here featured in the photographs. And as always, I apologize for any mispronunciations of these names. Mr. Wilson was a man of great enterprise. He came to Nevada as a penniless woodcutter and was one of the wealthiest men in the state by the time he passed away. He was said to have integrity, ability, and wide, favorable acquaintance throughout the state and beyond. His fortune came from the Tunapaha mining. You know my curious mind. I had to know more about the Tunapaha, which was named by migratory Indian bands for a spring that was nearby the mine. The county district attorney, Jim Butler, made the ore discovery, ending a 20-year slump in Nevada's economy, becoming the richest silver producer in the nation, bringing the population up to 10,000 people, along with the railroad, mills, and other things that are brought with wealth to old towns from the 1800s. As I said, Wilson passed away a wealthy man. He lived from 1854 to 1922. He was 68 years old when he passed. I was not able to find his cause of death. The former post office is an impressive tall red building that really stands out. It was constructed from 1888 to 1891. The building has worn many hats, as they say. It's housed the post office, the land office, the weather bureau, U.S. District Courts, and it was Carson City's first and only clock tower, 106 feet above the street. The exterior remains much the same as it has over the last 130 years. The imposing building takes up an entire block in the heart of the city. Here's a bit more about Mr. Brower. He had an interest in 8 mines total. He was a sheriff of Nye County, moved to Carson City, bought the lush Arlington Hotel, which burnt down in the 1970s. Sometime. He served in the Nevada Senate from 1902 to 1906, and in 1936, he sold the mansion to Carson City Postmaster Ernest Bath, who loved the mansion. It was 1 block away from his work at the post office, and he enjoyed standing on the round porch listening to the chimes to set his pocket watch. It's already been going for a minute, but you gotta hear this clock. It plays the whole song. Share with the motorcycles, it's sweet vibration. There's Harleys everywhere, but listen to the clock song. at. State Capitol's down there. There'll be photos later. We didn't tape it all. We can't tape everything. Listen to the clock. Darn it. I wish we would have started at the beginning. It was a whole full-on song. It's beautiful. Sorry about the sun, but there's a gorgeous house right here. And actually, you know what, guys? Carson City is actually nice and peaceful and friendly and nice houses. And you know, when you're born and raised in California, you think that's all there is. There's a lot of really nice places. Next, we have the Wrinkle Mansion. Hopefully I'm pronouncing that correctly. Built in 1876. Mr. died in 1879, and his wife and kids continued to live there until the wife died in 1933. One daughter married and stayed in the house until 1960. In 1941, it was featured in the Paramount picture film, The Remarkable. The mansion was a museum till 1968. To this day, it is one of the best remaining examples of high-style Victorian architecture in American Western states. Next is the E.D. Sweeney Building, built in 1864. It is one of the earliest commercial buildings in the city and one of the few brick buildings remaining. It was built by Peter Kavanaugh, who also built Nevada's Capitol building. There were shops and offices downstairs with apartments upstairs. There was a saloon from 1885 and also 1890. Mr. Sweeney donated the land for federal and state Capitol buildings. Mr. Sweeney was described as determined, patriotic, generous to a fault, constructing, energetic, empire building, courageous, and overcame the many obstacles in his way. There were many beautiful old buildings. This one looks like it used to be a church. I could not find facts on every building, but I wanted to include them here because they're so beautiful. Next is the Charts House, built in 1876, owned by a lumberman and a lawyer, but most notable owner Alfred Charts, who was a young news reporter who shot a man who attacked his editor's honor. He was sentenced to life in state prison, but was pardoned and became one of Nevada's best attorneys in water and mining adjudication. The Charts family lived there from 1894 to 1971. Surprisingly, as we explored through these old neighborhoods from the 1800s, we saw deer all over the place. It was cool to see the wildlife right there in the city.
If I can't keep my head held high enough, I'll just speak love and watch the smiles come.
Thanks for watching.
Bring my spirits up.
Don't forget to stop and smell the flowers.
There's some shit I like to fix, but I still know that I'm blessed.